If you're like most drivers, you probably had this experience. You see another driver do something really stupid or dangerous and think, that driver's got to be on the phone or maybe drunk. You may have even contacted law enforcement in an effort to get a driver off the road. And when you consider that at any given time, approximately 12% of drivers on the road have alcohol or drugs in their system, your assumption may not be too far off. Fortunately, among professional drivers in our industry, the percentage is much, much lower. Still, tragically, over 10,000 people die on the highways as a result of drunk driving crashes every year. Add in the crashes and fatalities that result from drivers impaired by drugs, and you understand the seriousness of the problem. You can also see why the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the FMCSA, has placed so much emphasis on required alcohol and drug testing. It's a fact. The FMCSA considers the issue of alcohol abuse and drug use so important that one of the 7 basics under CSA is specifically devoted to alcohol and drugs. In order to help prevent alcohol and drug-related crashes, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations mandate alcohol and drug testing for drivers of vehicles that require a commercial driver's license, a CDL. Under Part 382, the regulations spell out the types of testing required, confidentiality of the results, and the consequences for drivers who fail an alcohol test or test positive for drugs. One of the key terms in Part 382 is the definition of safety-sensitive function, because the alcohol and drug regulations apply to any driver who's performing or may be called upon to perform safety-sensitive functions. What qualifies as a safety-sensitive function? Obviously, driving is a safety-sensitive function. A number of tests are required by the regulations. Pre-employment, post-accident, random, reasonable suspicion, return to duty, and follow-up. We'll also discuss the procedures you can expect for both alcohol and drug tests and the consequences of failing an alcohol test, testing positive for drugs, or refusing to be tested. Finally, we'll touch on the confidentiality of alcohol and drug testing records and the role of substance abuse professionals, or SAPs, in helping drivers return to duty after a failed or positive test result. If you drive a commercial motor vehicle that requires a CDL, you know about pre-employment testing. All drivers prior to performing safety-sensitive functions for a motor carrier for the first time must be tested for drug use and have a negative test result. Pre-employment testing applies to both newly hired drivers as well as a person who transfers into a driving position from a non-driving position. We've talked about the types of tests that are required and when a driver is required to be tested. Now we'll review what you can expect when you go to the testing facility. First, alcohol testing. The alcohol test must be administered by someone who is trained and qualified in the procedures and on the device that will be used for your test. This person is usually referred to as a BAT, a breath alcohol technician, or an STT, a screening test technician.
Hello, I'm Cindy. I'll be administering your breath alcohol screening test today. Do you have your ID with you? May I please see your ID so I can confirm your identification for the test?
Sure. Here's my driver's license.
Thank you. The back of the form explains the procedure for taking the test. After you've read through it, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you. I've already filled out the first part of the form, but I'd like you to review it for accuracy and then fill out part 2. And then please sign where it indicates your agreement to take the test.
If you refuse to complete or sign the form, that is considered refusal to take the test and has the same consequences as failing the test.
This is the device we'll be using today. It's called an evidential breath testing device.
Testing for drugs is similar to alcohol testing. The sample collection must be done in a setting that offers you privacy and meets security requirements. The technician must be trained and certified in the process and must use approved materials and documents.
May I see your ID, please?
Like alcohol testing, you'll be required to present a photo ID.
Thank you. There you go. And if you would please empty your pockets and put everything in this drawer.
You'll also be required to empty your pockets to make certain that the sample you're about to give can't be tampered with.
Is that everything? Before you provide the urine sample, I need you to wash your hands here. Afterward, I'll turn off the water supply. You should fill the sample cup at least half full and don't flush the toilet when you're done. Do you have any questions?
Oh, what do I do with the sample after I'm finished?
I'll be waiting right out here. You can bring it to me. You can go ahead and wash your hands now.
Everyone agrees that drinking, drugs, and driving don't mix. And when a driver misuses alcohol or uses drugs, the consequences are certain and swift. That driver is taken off the road. What happens next depends on the policies of the motor carrier. When your motor carrier learns from the MRO that you failed an alcohol test, tested positive for drugs, or refused to be tested, your motor carrier must provide you with a listing of qualified substance abuse professionals, SAPs. If a driver wants to return to safety-sensitive functions, including driving, he or she must meet face-to-face with the SAP, who will complete a clinical evaluation and may refer the driver to a treatment program. The SAP may consult with the MRO as part of this evaluation.
The SAP is responsible for conducting the initial evaluation and assessment, and so at the conclusion of that, we'll make some recommendations. Do you go to education or do you go to a treatment program? And we'll follow your case throughout your participation in that program.
Beyond the dangers that alcohol abuse and drug use pose to those who share the highway, alcohol and drugs can have serious health effects on drivers who are users. Additionally, abusing alcohol or using drugs can have serious impacts on financial security and family stability. Drivers who misuse alcohol may exhibit slowed reactions, dulled mental processes, poor coordination. And there's one effect that alcohol and all the prohibited drugs share in common: impaired driving ability. You know from experience that managing a large commercial motor vehicle on the highway and at the loading dock requires focused concentration, excellent vision, and rapid reflexes. And these are the first abilities to be impaired by alcohol and drugs. If you believe you have a problem, the regs offer a path to admit the problem, get help, and return to driving. Fortunately, the motor carrier industry has an outstanding overall record when it comes to complying with the rules regarding alcohol and drugs. The vast majority of professional drivers know, obey, and support the regulations. Because breaking the rules can have such tragic, devastating, and often fatal consequences, testing for alcohol abuse and drug use just makes good sense. Knowing the regulations and applying them in your daily work means you're doing your part to protect your industry, your motor carrier, your livelihood, and the driving public. Stay safe out there.